Are you looking for a conversation? Well, on the Talk Over podcast, we discuss topics about adversity, mental health, society, relationships, eating habits, family members, and those children. We inspire others to help them gain motivation by listening to our conversations as we talk about all the challenging things that life can bring. Join us for fun-filled conversation to keep you smiling on the Talk Over podcast. Hope you join us.
Hello. Welcome to the Talk Over podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Griffin.
And I am Warren Griffin.
And our special guests today are the Gholsons. We have Tijuana Gholson and Lawerence Gholson.
Hello.
And they are here to partake in our How We Met couples marriage conversation. So we are honored to have them, and we are happy that they have accepted. So welcome both of you, Lawerence and Tijuana.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
This was
Yeah.
I go ahead.
Oh no, it's just awesome to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
We
Thank
follow
you.
you excited to just be a part of your journey right now. So thank you for inviting us.
Of course, we follow you guys too. If anyone knows, Lawerence was a part of the Men's Bully magazine, and he shared his humbling beginnings in the stories, All Men 20, sharing their past experiences and how they overcome their challenges. So we thank him for that as well. It's a powerful stories. So if you haven't read it, go read it now. It will definitely change your life.
Yeah. And I have to say, Lawerence, I really appreciate you taking the time out, sharing your story with a publication that you had no idea what it was. Mm-hmm. And I know that takes a lot, but for you to step out and do that, we most humbly appreciate that. To get started, my wife and I, we was sitting on the couch, and to get you guys to understand before we get into the conversation of where this came from, we were sitting on the couch, and it was just a general conversation about how we met, because we do it all the time. Do you remember how we met? Can you remember this or can you remember that? So of course we have a podcast that streams just voice only, and we just started recording ourselves and we put it on, and the response that we got for it was great. So we just decided to invite couples on, and you guys have accepted, and we're so humbled with that. Before we get into it, you guys just want to explain to our audience about yourselves, who you are, and just take your time. Does it, ladies first, Mr. Lawerence?
That's right.
And look, I was gonna let him go.
That's always the setup. So thank you for that leading, Warren. I appreciate that.
He's such the oratorical speaker. I always let him go first. But I'm Tijuana Gholson. I'm the wife of Lawerence. We will be happily wedded for 29 years, May the 9th. So we are so blessed to have had such a youthful life together, because we started off young, and so much more life ahead of us. So we're blessed with that. So that's who I am, a little girl from the country, not a whole lot of fluff. What you see is what you get. Not a lot of, no additives and no preservatives, honey. This is it.
Right.
If I like you, I like you. If I don't, you gonna know.
Wow.
It is what it is. And it's not that I'm gonna say anything. You gonna know because you don't even get that attention. So
wow.
That's just the no fluff in me. And some people say it's a Capricorn nature, but it is what it is. I love hard. And I deserve it back, and I respect you if you give it back. But if you don't, then there's nothing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
Love it.
And I'm Lawerence Gholson. I am the Mr. G to the Mrs. G. If she's on your right or your left, that's my Mrs. G right there. Listen, and you may hear and may have heard so many things about what I've accomplished and what I do, and God has been amazing to me in my story. I put feet to my faith, so it wasn't just that God blessed me; it was I used the opportunities that God provided before me so that I can move forward in my journey. But I'm like David. I'm just a shepherd boy, and if you see a crown, so be it. And if it encourages anybody along their way, so be that as well. But the truth and transparency in my wife was one of the first things that absolutely, totally amazed me to who she was, because what she just said, that didn't just happen. She's been that way since she was 13 years old.
Wow.
You know, extremely, we are very practical, relevant, and real people, and she really added to the realness of our journey all along the way.
Okay.
You know, something I heard in Tawanda's response is, and when she was introducing herself, 29 years.
Yes.
29 years, my brother.
Yes.
Hey, I tell you, you know, a lot of people can't say that, right?
Yeah.
And I know the title of this is How We Met, right?
Yeah.
And in 29 years, now I'm listening to Lawerence say 13. So right there, those two statements already let me know the history is there, right? now, let's get into this conversation. How it doesn't matter, because I don't know if I got in trouble the first time with saying to the ladies first.
You're fine. You're fine.
So I'm just gonna throw the question out there. How did the Gholsons meet?
Oh wow!
You want to tell the story? Tell the story.
I'm going to start. She is known for jumping in and correcting me along the way if that happens.
Yeah, that's what we do.
I'll touch up, dates and deadlines.
You know, we met in Dinwiddie County, Virginia. You know, I spent a lot of time. The most amazing thing is that I was a grandparent's kid, so I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's home, which was near her great grandparents' home, and she visited during the summers. And we met. We have a mutual. She has a cousin, and her cousin and I were in school together. We went to school together, and we just when we were young, the phone to these girls on the phone, just having a good time, just laughing and all of that great stuff. And we just connected there, but it was a friendship. We actually, truthfully, became best friends. And when I said best friend, she knew my old girlfriends. I knew her old boyfriend. You know, although the story or the meeting started at 13, we weren't dating or anything close to that. Didn't even recognize that as a thing for us at that time. That happened a few years later. So the beautiful part for us is that we were best friends prior to anything else. Mm-hmm. Mrs. Gholson.
Yep.
Lonnie is what they call him in the country, Lonnie for Lawerence. Lonnie was a good boy. He was a good old church boy, good old country boy. Very non-threatening, he was just good to talk. Somebody I could actually talk to, unlike the boys that I had I wouldn't say experience, but unknown, trying to holler kind of dudes all the time. Lawerence was smooth with his. He was just trying to be my friend and trying to give me advice and trying to tell me, you don't leave them hot heads alone because they don't, he was that dude, you know what I mean? Early, young. Like he know what he talking about. I'm like watching too many soap operas with his grandma trying to give me some,
yeah, such an old soul, isn't he?
Trying to drop some knowledge. So he just became. So he became my homie, man. He was just so cool. We sit on the phone for hours, and I thought I was a rapper back then. Don't ask me to spit no rhymes today because I'm a little rusty. But I thought.
But we were in the beginning of rap battles. We really were.
Yeah, we were rap battling. And then we'd go to singing church songs, singing the hymns right after that. We just had a ball over the phone. Because, back then, that's all we had in the 80s. The telephone, and then we had to get off every so often because we ain't had no call waiting back then. Your mama be like, look at here, get off my phone. Right. Hold my phone up. Somebody could be calling me.
Exactly.
So we come from that era, just having fun over the phone, acting silly, you know. And then we kind of lost connection for 2 years, because when I got back with him, I was 16, and he had a little sister by then, because he was the only child when I met him initially. He had a little sister, which I thought was really strange. I was like, your mom and daddy still having sex? But anyway, because, you know, we thought they 30s and 30s, you know, they were their 30s, you know, their late 30s, they old. But,
oh my God.
So that's what I mean, didn't I, honey? I said, your mom and daddy still have sex. You know, the 2-year-old sister. We about to graduate.
This is great.
It was funny, man.
It's funny, but that's exactly how it happened. It was like, you got a little sister now? You got a little sister. Your mom and your daddy still having sex, and I'm like, I know, right? You know,
we couldn't even fathom that, you know. And even to this day, we laughed about it then. So the amazing thing for us is that my sister does not know my life without Tijuana being a part of it. So she was really raised as Tijuana's sister. A lot of people assume that she was Tijuana's sister instead of mine down through the years. She started looking like me after a while, didn't she?
Yeah. So
she started amazing. And then when we had our daughter, they started looking well, they do look alike. They look a lot alike. But it was just a weird situation because we were so meshed. You know, our family was meshed together. And
our parents knew each other. My grandparents, you know, we come from an area where, although I met her in one locality, her entire family were raised in my locality, although she wasn't raised. So our parents and grandparents knew each other. They went to school together. So we had a running joke. We went to a family reunion one year, and we were related to everybody there. And it was like, oh, the Tuckers and the Gholsons have been hooking up down through the years, so this ain't nothing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because I'm a Tucker, right? And I'm a Tucker twice because my mama and my father Tucker. That's a whole nother show. But so I every time I go somewhere, I'm like related to everybody.
Wow,
it's so in Whitty area, you know. It is so crazy. So somebody told us one time, just don't dig too much. Y'all are fine. Y'all are fine. Are we cousins?
Yeah, leave that one alone. Leave that one alone.
Leave it alone. Y'all are fine. Y'all go ahead on about your life.
Yeah. Y'all good. Most definitely. You know, Lawerence, listen,
right?
Huh? And listening to your story and then having a younger sister, because you guys met 13 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And then I just love how you said, okay, I just was talking to her on the phone at 13, because 13, hey, dad is in there, and you know, she's a young girl, and we know how we are as men and boys. And then to have a younger sister, right? Who Tijuana seen become that same 13-year-old young lady, right? So you guys are together, very impressionable at that age, you know. So kudos to you guys. I'm pretty sure they are well-rounded young women. So I know at that point, Lawerence, you was like, okay, 13. I met this girl at 13, and I liked her at 16. She's been in my life. Now my little sister, 13. I know some things is going through your mind with the little boys, right?
Oh yeah. It was organic, because my sister was more like my daughter's sister, because I was 15 when she was born. So I took on a lot of being the second dad in a lot of ways. And at the same time, when I graduated, and in fact, my oldest son is only 6 years older than my sister. Yeah. So you know. So they're growing up. They grew up as brothers and sisters more so than me and her growing up as brothers and sisters.
Yeah, wow.
He's 5 years younger than her, honey, not 6 years older than her.
Excuse me, 5 years younger than her. That's the opposite.
Look, I didn't catch it either, Lawerence. Don't worry about it. I missed the whole boat too.
Well, I understood what he meant.
Yeah.
See, there you go.
You know what he meant.
We are not going to make this no verses now. No.
Right.
I'm glad I got some reinforcement, Mr. G. Now.
Right.
So this is great. You know, I just want to, I don't know if people are going to have listened to our podcast, but I just want to give a little background on, or Kim can give a little background on how we met, and then we'll get into a more, a good conversation within this thing. Did you want to do it, Kim, or you want me to tell?
They know how we met. They listened to
Well,
it.
I'm just saying anybody else who's pretty much going to listen to this podcast over time may have not. Yeah, may have not.
The new listeners.
Yeah.
Okay, so how me and Warren met. Me and Warren met on a dating app. Well, not an app. It was a dating, what was it?
It's called Black Planet. You remember that?
Yeah.
That's long ago.
Yeah,
that's long ago. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how
you guys remember Black Planet?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's how me and Warren met. I met him because my brother was on that site. I had just got out of a relationship and I was down and out and I really didn't want to date anyone. I was all over the place. Right. But my brother was like, you need to date. You know, I just moved to Virginia. So he was like, you ain't going to sit around here lonely and, you know, all miserable and stuff. So I got on the site. I got on there, seen a few people, didn't like them, kind of, you know, just met each other. But I was like, I met this one guy. He had all his red on. I was like, definitely out the door. We're not doing that. You know, he had red shoes on. I was like, I'm over it. So yeah. So then I saw Warren's face, and I was like, I like him. So my brother's like, oh, there you go with the pretty dudes. At that time, Warren had hair in the picture. So I was like, oh, he got good hair too. Yeah, I like him. And, you know, stuff like that. So
I don't know how to feel about that now.
Message.
I
left him a message.
Oh, that didn't sound right.
That didn't sound right.
And he didn't respond back right away. So I was in my feelings. I'm like, okay. So my brother's like, oh, I told you. So then he finally responded on Valentine's Day. And he left me a message back. And then after that, he called me. We called each other. And we met. And you can take it from there, Warren, because I know this is your part.
It is?
Yeah, because you're always like, oh, I want to meet you right now.
Well, I didn't want to get to that. I just wanted to get the listener audience to know how we met along of how it goes. Since I think of the jail much better if they go back and listen to the podcast. But yeah, I mean, in meeting Kim, it was great, man. It's been an interesting. We've been together 10 years now, you know, and I have to say that, you know, her tenacity and the things that she looked forward to doing. I got to say this, Tawanda. If you're looking for an innovator, you'll find one in Miss Griffin. Because I tell you, we've had a lot of businesses. Nice. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot more. I say, Lord, you know, I'm a guy who, you know, I get into a routine of working and things like that. So she's really opened my mind up to entrepreneurship and making sure that we can move forward with things that we can do. Now, I've owned a business in the past. I had the business for like 5-6 years. I had it, but I gave it up and went back to work. It just didn't pan out for me. So, you know, I've been a little reluctant in getting started back in it, but you know, I'm getting my feet wet back. I'm getting my feet wet again. So, but I ain't gonna get into it. I can kind of get off the scale. You can see that, but anyway, as we move along, I know we are adults here, right? And we have 4 people who have been in relationships for a while now, Let's get into that. And I don't care. Let's just have that general conversation. 29 years in the game, one man, one woman. I mean, come on. Who doesn't need that advice? Right. So I don't care which one of you guys get to talking. Let's just run through these 29 years and tell people how important it is to look at that man 29 years later and say, I love him. And the same as you looking at that woman and say, I still love her 29 years later. But you said it earlier. I knew you said it was organic. So, yeah.
Yeah. If you count dating, it's been 34.
Wow.
If you count knowing him, it's been 36. So we've known each other longer than we have not. We literally grew up together, and like Lawerence said, our families are so meshed. We tried to break up one time, just didn't work out for us. It was too complicated. We couldn't break up because it didn't work out. It was too much work to break up than to stay together and work that mess out.
people get on your nerve like they get on my nerve. We're gonna have to work this out because I can't do it.
We gotta work this out.
I agree.
Then the thing about all the family dynamics that we have, because we're so meshed in our families, you know, like like we said earlier, he didn't even have a sibling when I met him. So, you know, I was a part of helping to raise my sister-in-law. I have a younger brother, 10 years younger than me. They all were trailing behind us. We were the teenagers that, for whatever reason, we have these kids with us. Everybody dumped their kids on us. We did a lot of practicing with our siblings and cousins. And so we're all they know. So it was so many people that if we would have broken up, we would have to go and sit down and break the news to so many people. It wasn't even worth it. It was like, you know what, we gotta work this mess out because you know, just tell, you know, and we try to keep it real like that because they also look at us as if we never had any issues or like we are picture perfect, which we are so from that. We do life like everybody else does and go through the same issues everybody else goes through in the same seasons that everybody else do, and we crazy and stupid and off the rocker sometimes, and we take turns and we work it out. So
and that's in a nutshell. You know, the other side of that is that we have a daughter. You know, and anybody who knows our daughter, trying to think about having to introduce somebody else into my daughter's life. She's grown. Yeah. My daughter wasn't going to have any of that. You know. She was not going to have any of that. In my mind, I didn't even have to have a conversation with her to know that no, this is never going to be a thing.
Yeah, we both would have left. We would have to left the state or the country and live different lives if we broke up. I mean, seriously, just get away from everybody. Or we, you know, just go missing because it was just we are so weaved in our lives and our hearts and in our families. Because I believe because we grew up together and it's the perfect life for us, you know, the perfect life for us.
And when you marry your best friend and all of this stuff that we're probably going to cover and the stuff that people are saying, well, what type of stuff did they go through? When you marry your best friend, you can make it through that stuff. I always said I can lose a spouse, I really can, but I would never lose a best friend.
Yeah.
You know, I want to make sure I secure and I safeguard the relationship with my best friend. So when your best friend is who is supposed to be your spouse, then everything else is just a part of life happening and you figure it out. Yeah. And you make it work. You know, that's the big thing. It's the natural love, the ebbs and flow of life itself, because life happens. As Tawana was saying, life happens and you learn how to weather all of it.
You do. Absolutely.
And I tell you, that right there in a nutshell, I think is what continues relationships for a long time, that friendship word, you know, because you ever heard that, you know, I like them, but you know, I love them, but I don't like them.
Yeah.
You know, how you can be with somebody and you like literally don't like that person, but you love them, you know, and sometimes that can end the relationship per se, but you guys still have a relationship together, but you're just not together as a couple because you remain that friend, you know. So I think I've always asked my people of what is your biggest, I can say what I want to use. What is that thing that you hold tightly to that keeps you within that relationship? And I would say mine is the conversation. When the conversation breaks down, if me and Kim is mad and she's not that one that wants to open up that dialogue and let's get back through this, it can be problems. Somebody in that relationship got to be able to have that conversation, right? That I'm sorry, or let's talk about it, you know. And I think if you are a young couple and you just make sure you can conversate with each other, and that entails of being a friend with someone. Because again, who do you want to come? You know, if you don't like the person, you don't even want to conversate with them.
That's right.
So both of those run hand in hand. I think, you know, you have to be that person's friend and be able to even want to continue in that relationship. You know, and hey, nobody is perfect in this world, and I love relationships and I love marriage. You know what I mean? And I love when I see people are together and being as one. right? Because what happens is that family dynamic breaks down, and I can only imagine you guys' family dynamic. I mean, I don't think y'all would have even a chance. I mean, y'all have so many people coming after y'all. Like, hold on, this is not gonna happen.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I have a little cousin now. She's she's 37 now. It took her into her mid 30s, she said, to realize that Tijuana really wasn't her cousin. You know, because as you grow up, you don't just talk about it. And she was a second cousin, so she grew up with my sister more so than me. However, Tijuana was always there too, and for her, it's like she did not realize or recognize the fact that, wait a minute, you mean T is not my cousin for real? For real, she's not my blood. And if you followed us around in our lives, it really is like that. When her grandma is my grandma, I call her Granny. She called me her Lonnie Donnie. She looks out for me. Celebrate each other's families as if though it's one. You know, and it's a beautiful thing. The hardest part for us that we did not recognize until we were in that season was my father raised my wife, and my mother-in-law raised me. So we lost them within 3 months of each other, and we went through the whole traumatic experience together, and at the same time had to be there to help each other get through it. But the loss was equal. We were triggering each other and trying to, and we didn't have a blueprint. We didn't know anybody who had experienced that. It's normally, okay, my wife lost her mom. I love my mom. I'll make sure my wife is good. But when my wife breaking down, it breaks me down because I feel the exact same loss.
Oh.
So that has been a work for us. You know, it really has. But it's been an absolute blessing to be able to use that and be able to use it as a part of our mission and assignment in life too.
That's wonderful. So that connection really must have been really strong because of that, which I went through, those losses together. So understanding each other's emotions and being able to communicate and respect it. I think that's really, that's big because y'all know I lost too.
Yeah.
So to know that both of y'all lost together in like almost the same time, that's a lot, you know, because if he's comforting you, you got to comfort him too.
Yeah.
You know, so you both got to respect each other's emotions and feelings. That loss, that hurt, that's painful. It's painful. It's very painful. Especially when they keep coming, you know, it's painful.
And then
I never thought that I would experience that.
Yeah, and sometimes we both felt guilty because we were like, "Am I grieving too much? Am I giving you enough space?"
Right.
Am I being selfish with my grieving? It was just great.
And
but you can't stop it.
You know, when your friends is like, wait a minute, because you don't normally think about it. If you're grieving, you're selfish in your grief. But when your best friend is grieving with you, you want to make sure that you have space and carve out time for them to go through and not be so self-absorbed.
Right.
It was great. It was
that's oh man, I'm just thinking about that right now. I know still that was
weird.
A lot.
Still weird. It's still a weird space, but we're thank God we like each other and we love each other.
That's
the whole premise of this is we are friends and that's what's getting us through it.
That's right.
Through anything in life, you know.
That's wonderful.
We just never dreamed it this way, but you know, apparently there's something on the other side that we can't see right now, but we'll know it when that time comes. So that's what I believe and I hold on to.
That's right. But God made it happen for you. He put you guys together for the perfect reason because he knew his strength would help you and your strength would help him with this that happened with your losses. So that's a blessing. That is definitely
it definitely is. Mm-hmm. I'm blessed to have my husband.
Yes, that's wonderful. I love it. Oh, I love it. Mm-hmm. So you guys can keep going forth with how you met, you know, taking it further.
Where we left off at. Get back together. We got back together. You tell them that story, boy.
All right, so I was in the choir. She said I was a good church boy, and I was, and that's my final answer. I was a very good church boy. All right,
that's my final answer.
So my choir at my church, we were having our young youth choir anniversary, and I didn't know who. We hadn't seen each other in a couple of years, so I knew she could rap and sing and all of that stuff, but I didn't know she was a part of a group. Well, she was a part of this group that was well renowned in our area, and they were the guests at our choir anniversary at church. So yeah, God had a perfect plan. We re-met in church. All right, so we sit there, and I didn't recognize her because she had grown up. You know, when I first met her, she had the jerry curl with the with the Kool-Aid coloring and that sort of thing, you know. But she had grown up, right? And I was like, yeah. And then, you know, the boys in the choir like, yo, she's cute, Dad. That's a good looking. And I'm looking at her like, wait a minute, that's T right there. So at that moment, you know, Warren, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and start marking trees right now. Oh no, I know her. Right. So, you know, it was like one of those wonderful Harlequin romance things. So after this anniversary was over, she had noticed me while she was singing to me. We waved, you know, and smiled at each other and all that stuff. So afterwards, it was a little cool outside. So I took off my jacket and put my jacket on her so she wouldn't be cool, you know. And 16, I was macking at 16 and a half, 17 years old, man. Invited her to my ring dance, which was coming up in a few months, right there on the spot.
I mean, I'm like, huh? We just got back. You want me to go? Okay.
It was no time.
And of course, we went as friends. It was not even, it was like, yo, I would love for T to hang out with me at my ring dance. You know, so we can reconnect. She's older now. She's I'm assuming she's driving. We can connect because she lived she was in Chesterfield, so that was a little distance away from where I live. So we were old enough where transportation or traveling to see each other wouldn't have been an issue to connect. And that was the actual beginning of the relationship part of it. Following the ring dance, you know.
Wow,
and I think
she
had a boyfriend when I asked her to the ring dance and all of that stuff. And I just, you know, I'm a poet, so they was going through some things. So I dropped one of the mad, strong 17-year-old poets on her. And broke her down when I broke her down. So.
He broke it down.
Yeah, he did. He broke me down. I had to call him back.
Yeah, she like, I got to call you back. I got to call you back. But
I ain't never had no dude write a poem.
I never told a story like this. Yeah. See, these two folks right here, that's what I told them. They have such a God assignment that they can pull stuff out you that you don't normally just tell people.
Right. That's right. I know we going way back.
That's right.
It's great, though. It's great. It is great. It is great. I just like the fact that you guys, I mean, to me, I'm sitting here in awe, like, wow. I mean, I can remember being 17 and I don't even know who I met, you know, versus still being with them, you know. So that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's like 17. Hold on, let me think. Who was it? You know,
really made it work though. Was that we could drink? I would. She was the first person I could tell. I had weird, crazy dreams of how I wanted to live my life. You know, because I was a grandparents' kid, and when you stay at your grandma's house, you are going to watch Phil Donahue, Lawerence Welk, and The Young and the Restless. So, the woman on The Young and the Restless became one of my mentors. He was an acquisition and mergers billionaire tycoon, and I wanted that to be a part of my story. And I would share it with T, and she was like, "Yeah, you can do that, and this is how we can make that happen." You know, it's like, wait a minute.
Great.
She did it, and she adding to it. She ain't just believing in me; she adding to it.
Because I wanted to be Catherine Chancellor. Heck, I wanted to walk around with flowers all day too. I was like, "Hey, you dreaming like that, bro? Let's do this."
That's good.
We didn't know what we were doing at the time, but you know, I mean, we were just dreamers. You know,
we were encouraging each other, and not even realizing we were building dreams. And just at the time, it's fun teenage conversations. But we were building dreams, and because we both connected with those dreams, we had a blueprint that never existed for us before that we were able to create and walk it out together.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's wonderful.
And after his ring dance, we became inseparable. I mean, he started trailing behind me. I was a PK, so and we were in my family had singing groups, and I had to sing all the time. I mean, every Sunday we had to go to a program, as they called them back then. We would go from church to church. In one day, one Sunday, we could do 3 church gigs, and Lawerence would trail right behind me to all of those.
And it was amazing to me, the whole story. You know, I come from a Baptist background, so when I got connected with T, there was a lot of holiness and Pentecostal and shouting going on. I was like, "This is what?"
He ain't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He came from the little boring Baptist church in the country. Mind you, my family used to go to that church years ago before they moved from the country to the,
Mm-hmm.
some of them moved from the country to the city. So they transitioned from the same church my husband was raised in. They transitioned from that to, the churches in town, as they call it, in town. So it's so funny that we have a lot of the same starting points. Our grandparents, like my grandparents are from Dinwiddie. That's where they were born and raised. And so although they moved to Petersburg, their parents were still in Dinwiddie. That's how I got to go out. I was blessed to have great grandparents. So those were my mom's grandparents. So what did she do? She dumped her kids on her grandparents in the summer because they wanted us, so we would be out there. And that's how I got to meet Lawerence and, got to know my family out in the country. And a lot of them are still there. They're they own land and stuff. So they're still in the country. But Lawerence and I have had a lot of starting points. We've even traced ourselves back to we possibly was in the same preschool.
Wow.
Yep, looking at our preschool pictures, I'm like, you went to White's kindergarten? He was like, yeah. I said, I did too.
Wow.
I was there to see because everybody went to White's kindergarten back then.
I probably pushed you off of the merry-go-round, and
he probably did. He probably did. Started my knee or something, and we ain't know.
That is great.
Wow,
that is great, man. That is great.
Yeah,
29 years later, that's great.
We're still here. We're gonna keep it moving. We're gonna keep it moving.
So tell us about the high school and the college, and let's get into that.
High school. Did you guys in college? Was that a challenge for you guys? Have you ever split up? Not split up as far as a relationship, but I'm talking about distance wise. It became a long time.
Let me start at high school because we did not go to the same high schools. Like Lawerence said, I was raised in Chesterfield County. Okay, so my family's from Dinwiddie. That's where the roots are. My grandparents, some people got city jobs and they moved. They migrated to Petersburg down the road, because they got the city job. So my mother was raised in Petersburg as a I guess through school. But as a kid, she was in Dinwiddie because of her grandparents there. And then she moved us to Chesterfield County down the road because, the school system. So they say that's a whole nother segment too. The school systems were better, so they say. So they put me in this all white environment thinking that I get better education, but forget all about the racism part. But anyway, that's a whole nother segment. So, we weren't in the same cities. I mean, we were several cities away.
To high school, grade school together.
Yeah, so we didn't go to school together at all. But you wouldn't know it because, once we had cars. And one thing about living in the country, if you didn't have a car, you couldn't get anywhere because our bus lines shut off at a certain amount of time. So kids in our world, we got cars at 16 years old. You try to be good and get your grades right. So if your parents could afford it, either got you a car or allowed you to get a job to get a car. So I had a car. Huh? What'd you say, babe?
I had the big time moped before I got a car.
Yeah, he had a moped that I wrecked when I first met him. But anyway, we forgot the moped story.
She wrecked my moped. That was in junior high school. We didn't talk about that.
That's when I first met you.
My mom said, I knew you like that girl because you didn't let nobody ride your moped, and she wrecked your moped.
Yeah, he let me wreck that moped. Bless his heart. But
she wrecked the moped?
I did.
Yeah, almost ran us into the lake.
Almost went into the water. I didn't know what I was doing. I don't know why I lied and said I could ride a moped. I couldn't ride no moped. And
Oh my God.
I almost lost my little life. I almost lost my little life. Anyway, I thought it was a bicycle.
Because back then they did have like pedals too, right?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, they had pedals and the motor, yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you believe me. I'm sorry, baby. But But yeah, so when I got a car at 16, I got a job. One thing about in my family, when you get a job and you get a car, you basically grown. They like count down for you to get your hind parts out of the house. So 16, I was on a 2-year countdown.
She had so much freedom. She had so much, which was amazing to me.
I had too much freedom. It was ridiculous. Yeah. But I worked a lot. I was a workaholic. I had 2, sometimes 3 jobs in high school. I don't know how I did that, and I participated in activities. Anyway, that crazy person, and I'm still that crazy person sometimes. But so when we were in high school, we didn't have any barriers to seeing each other other than school. We didn't see each other in school, but as soon as we got off,
I would be at Marshall Bay. I was in the Marshall Bay, and she would just drive up, and she would be there. So even the folks in my high school ended up knowing her very well because I was popular in school. So she became well known because she was always coming up after school, hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost as if though we did go to school together. People who graduated with me are her friends. They even consider her to be their classmates. Wow. Well, some of them actually end up graduating. She actually transferred to my high school the year after I graduated.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, so you came out before her? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so I do know a lot of the same people.
I don't know if I should say this. Seems like you guys are, but Lawerence, we already know why she was coming up to the school, right?
Looking at him.
We already know why she was coming up there. Hey, as soon as she finished math class, she was heading that way, brother.
I should have been somewhere studying for the SAT or something. I'm up there looking at his face. We ended up going to the same college because I was supposed to go to Hampton University, all set to go. It was going to be a roommate with one of my girlfriends, and I decided to go follow him at Virginia Union because I just couldn't get enough of him, I guess. And
wow, that's great.
It's
that's
great.
Hey, that was such a compliment. You gotta check. You gotta smile, man.
It turned out great. It turned out great. It delayed some things because we ended up coming out with a birth certificate.
Birth certificates, some got to change here.
We ended up getting a birth certificate before the college degree. So it's like, Lord have mercy. I should have went to Hampton now.
Something got to change. Yeah.
Here ain't gonna work. I can't go back. This ain't gonna work. And then we transferred to Virginia State University. Woo, Trojans! Transferred to Virginia State University, and then we did that together. And shortly after then, I was working full time, going to school full time. It was a lot of stress. It's a lot of trauma you're trying to not be the statistics that the society expects for you to be. So we worked, and that was our goal was we were not going to be there no matter what. We had no choice. We had nothing to fall back on that was going to sustain our future, but our dreams. So that's when Victor Newman and Catherine Chancellor really kicked into our spirits, and we said, "Oh, where are we going after this?" I joined the military. Came home, told her I taken it. I didn't even tell her I was going to take the test. Took the ASVAB, scored extremely well on it. Had some options. Came home and told her, "Hey, I joined the military." And my proposal, Warren, you read this proposal right here is key. I joined the military, and the recruiter said I can make more money if we marry before I go. That was my initial proposal.
No, that was your second proposal. You actually proposed to me at 18, and my mama had a flipping fit.
Oh yeah, that's true. I didn't count that one. You're right. That actually was a proposal.
You proposed to me right before you left for Union because you ain't want me to run off with another high school senior while you was gone because I was still at high school.
Oh yeah.
I was like, shit, man. She was like, what do you mean? We not getting married now. Just talking about when we in our 20s. He just gave me a ring. That's it.
Wow. Mama wasn't having it.
She wasn't having it, honey. I was going to college.
She thought that was going to change Tawana's entire. She loved me, but she turned on me at that moment. Yeah. She was like, "Wait a minute,
that quick, huh?"
She was like, "You got to go to college. You ain't getting married."
That's wonderful.
I know. I mean, it had to feel good that you knew this man so young, just was so passionate about you, right?
Yeah, it did. It really did.
You know.
And I guess he's how you get the money to get a ring, honey? I still had that ring, by the way.
I have been
that's right. You
working
was in the
since I was.
hospital.
I was working since I was 14, 15 years old. So I had learned how to take care of myself early, you know, and that was just one of my goals. So I had prepared for this particular ring that I'd seen. It was nice. It was what was it? I can't even remember the name.
Was it Zales?
Zales. Reeds.
You went to a real jewel. Reeds. You had an account there. That's right.
When I saw the ring now, today it wouldn't be a whole lot of money to me. But back then, that little whatever I paid for it was big time, right? For me.
Yeah.
So, the ring, and I liked it, and I wanted her to have it. You know, I said I want her to have this ring. So I bought the ring. And that was the end of that story. Now, when I proposed to her, I ain't had no money to get her a ring. So thank God I gave her a ring at 18.
I'd already had the ring.
The actual proposal.
I own the memories from that ring, girl.
Yeah.
We gotta push this thing up.
Don't put that on right there. You know I love you.
Don't play with me.
Oh my God.
My proposal was, go ahead, you can take it over from there.
And when he said, I can make more money, what you gonna do? I said, you ain't leaving me in Petersburg with no 2 kids. I'm gone.
Yeah.
We did that quick wedding, honey.
Yeah.
We put that wedding together right quick. And we was catered by the door. We got up out of there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it was the absolute best part of our process, honestly. That moment defined everything else we've done since then.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to ask that question too, because now you guys are getting away from the family dynamics and it's just y'all now, right?
Ooh, we've been there since the beginning.
But it seems like, well, I'm not sure, but it seems like that was the time you guys, you know, going into the military and having to get deployed, I would say, and her coming with you guys were not surrounded. So now it's just it's just 4 of y'all.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it was hard.
It's just 4 of y'all. So now the relationship really begins because there's really not a lot of people and hands in the pot per se to gear you guys in the direction. So I got to say one thing before you guys keep talking. You know, I am just so in awe of how at such a young age, y'all was on what y'all wanted to do.
That's right.
In the direction that y'all wanted to go. I mean, it's just amazing to me because, I mean, I've bumped my head so many times, you know, being all over the place. And it's like just to hear you guys talk, like, even from an early age, watching stories and say, hey, this is what I want to be, and this is what I'm going to do. You come in with me? Oh, yeah, I'm going with you. That's great. That's great.
And adding to the plan. So,
yeah, and adding, man, that's great. That is great.
You
don't hear a lot of that huh?
And we didn't realize it. I'll be honest with you. It took us years to realize that everybody didn't do that. You know, we were so young. We were so young and probably so gullible in a lot of ways that we just figured that anybody who had a relationship, they had conversation. Tijuana was big on conversations early. So I had to get over the idea of not talking because that was big for her to have conversations. So it was nothing but a thing for us to ever come catch up with one another and talk about a dream or an idea, even when we were just dating. So that became just part of our culture. It wasn't something that we had to work to do, you know, and And like I said, we didn't realize until a year much later, and probably within the last 5 to 8 years, that people don't do that. Even at our age, people struggle with doing that. You know, so we definitely we benefited from it. We're thankful for it because it wasn't work for us, but looking at how people interact now, we can see that it's work for people. To be honest.
Because you're gonna always have that
conversations.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Because you're gonna always have that dominant person or that one person in a relationship that's a go-getter, and the other one might be lackadaisic somehow, right? But they still work in a relationship. But as far as financially, they might not be on the same even keel. But it seemed like both of you guys at an early age were ready for it, hit the pavement running, and you guys haven't stopped. and that's great. That's great to see. You know, and I think that, you know, anything that we do from now until, you know, God calls us home, I think especially at our age, is very important that even we give back in a setting like this, to let young people know that, hey, that's okay. It's okay to have those visions very early, you know, especially if you see yourself with this person for so long, because I think a lot of marriages, man, they take divorce and standing in front of that option, that option of getting a divorce. They take it with them and they walk down the aisle with it. They walk down the aisle with the notion that, okay, if this don't work, I can just go my separate ways, instead of focusing on, hey, what can we build together? What can we have together 29 years from now? And I think that's very important for, young people to see this video and to see this and say, wow, okay, this is where we start. We start when we're 13 years old, not when we're 30. Right?
Right. And I'm glad you said this, because I do want to make sure we do speak to our younger couples out there and make sure they don't get caught, because the fairy tale part of our story is an absolutely wonderful and amazing thing. But there are other parts of our story that were just as painful. It was painful to get here, and everybody can't do it, so it's always young folks listening and grown folks listening. It's always a disadvantage and an unrealistic approach to compare your relationship or your marriage to somebody else's. The truth is, you're not married to Tijuana or Lawerence.
Exactly.
So who we are works for each other. It may never work. You chose and you were attracted to the person that you chose and were attracted to for whatever reason. Stick to that reason. Our reason is totally different from a lot of other people's. But whatever your reason is, stick to that, and then own your own. Your relationship and your marriage is what you make, not what somebody else expects. It's what you and remember, one of my biggest things in counseling is you are accountable to, but you're not responsible for. I am accountable to my wife in the relationship, but I'm not responsible for her as a person.
Great.
We're accountable to this union, but I cannot be responsible for what it does or does not do for her. That comes from communication in a relationship.
And also too, for the ladies and men alike, your happiness, because we all have gone through phases where we say, oh, I need someone to make me happy. That's not true happiness. Your happiness is dependent upon you, regardless of who's there. Like Lawerence says, I'm accountable to him, but I'm not responsible for his happiness. He needs to work on that first. And I'm in addition to that. I should be the icing on the cake, and same with him and me. We have to find our own space and our own happy place, because we're the only people, you as an individual is the only person you're stuck with for the rest of your life. So you got to either like you or not. So
that's great.
That is great. It's wonderful that you said that, Tijuana, because that is something that I struggled with for a while. Not being happy with myself and my choices I made in life. And then for some time, knowing your self-worth, getting these jobs and these positions, knowing that I could have done a lot better in another position. So I just kept telling my husband, I can't do this no more. I know my self-worth. Yeah, I got all these degrees, but I want to do something I enjoy doing. You know what I'm saying? So starting this writing process wasn't something I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the field of public health. I wanted to do, something different. But I wound up loving this. And loving this made me happy about what I'm doing. So now my happiness is with writing, talking to people, expressing my feelings, being able to release all the things I went through in my life and not be ashamed anymore. So now my happiness is me finding a better way to make myself happy and make someone else happy. So that is good that you said that.
And I think to be happy is everything, man. None of us can describe our happiness to another person, because it comes in so many different forms. What makes you happy may not make me happy. But that, like Tijuana said, that happiness resides within. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm pretty sure y'all have heard it. He don't make me happy, or she don't make me happy. And I think that dialogue came up. I think Will Smith. I remember Will Smith and Jada talking about that some years back. As far as he came in, he did when he said, "I can't make Jada happy," and I think that's one of the first time I really probably paid attention to it. But you're absolutely correct. I can't make you happy. Right. You can't make me happy. But the word accountability, I'm learning something new within this conversation. I'm talking to you guys, being accountable, because sometimes we can be accountable and not knowing that we are, because that's just the person that we are at the time. Right. Like me as a husband, I'm gonna make sure that we okay. I'm gonna make sure my wife is okay, because I'm just built like that. I'm the guy who, if we only have $5 in the bank, I'm gonna go drive Uber to make sure that I get another 20. I'm gonna make sure that if I don't have some in the refrigerator, I'm not sitting on the couch looking at TV. I'm going out here and get it. Right. You know what I mean? I mean, legally anyway. Let me throw that out there. but I'm just a joke. I'm just a jokester like that. I like to throw a little joke in there somehow, but because we're getting a little serious here. But I just like the fact that you guys just had your vision so early in life. You know what I mean? And we all know that there's a side that is just not perfect. No relationship is perfect. But I think there's a balance. I'm a guy who I love balance. And you got to have the perfect to outbalance the imperfect. And for a relationship to work. You gotta have that. You cannot have that imperfect outweighing your relationship. You got to balance that thing off, man. And I think you can make it 29 years, especially when you look at somebody at 13 and find that bubblegum ring. Because I think Lawerence had a bubblegum ring earlier. We just didn't show it to you.
It had a gold ring. It had a gold band, but a speck of dime. I mean, like a...
I was doing something.
Fuck ring, right?
But you know what? She laughing now, but they gave her a glimpse. If I could do that on a dime, imagine what I could do with
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
5-year anniversary. Every 5 years, he would upgrade my ring. So,
wow, that's great.
Yeah. He said, if you was hanging with me with lint in my pocket and you hanging with me now, you get a ring every 5 years. So.
Hey, oh man, that's awesome. That is great. Yes.
And the part we left out, I will throw this in there because the people hear this part of the story. They didn't see us driving around in our little hoopty vehicle with air coming out like the Flintstones, and I'm having to use a screwdriver to gear shift.
Honey.
They don't know anything about that. They don't know anything about the lights being turned off, the water being turned off. And when my neighbor go to work, I'm having to go to her house outside of her water speaker, getting water jugs to have water in my house for my family. They don't know anything about, we didn't have toilet tissue, so up the street was a laundromat. I would end up stealing toilet tissue from the laundromat. Wow. Every time
we borrowed it.
We borrowed it.
I take a 48 roll of toilet tissues and I drop it off at their laundromat. I know they probably have no idea who it is, but for me, that was back then. And I don't know who may be in the situation that I was in back then. And if toilet tissue is your lifeline, I want to be able to give back. So I just drop it off at the laundromat. But people don't know this part of the story. They have no idea that, what you see now, it wasn't always here. We worked hard.
Right.
You had to work for it. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's why we've been very careful never to glorify any things that we have in life or never to worship things, because we always look at our relationship and relationships with others, friendships. I always tell my girlfriends that if I'm on my bed, the way I see life, if I'm on my deathbed, I do not want y'all to come and bring me all of my clothes that I've acquired over the years or my jewelry. I want my girlfriends, one at the foot of rubbing my feet, one holding my hand, one got a cold compress on my head saying, T, it's okay, you can go. That's relationship. That's different than acquiring things. And I feel like so many people, they spend so much time focused on getting the new house, getting the new car, getting the new shoes, that they forget the relationships. So I'm very careful, and Lawerence is very careful that people, when we go somewhere, people go with us. You know, we got an opportunity. That opportunity is for the crew. Because we tell people, hey, can my friends come too? If my friends can't come, then that ain't for me. Because, you know what I mean?
That's
so
great,
we've always lived our life like that because relationships are so much more important to us than anything we can ever have. You know, we can live in our car, but we can never buy relationships. Those are priceless, you know.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
That's
great.
wonderful. That's wonderful that you're so genuine, and the loyalty that you guys hold for your friendship with your friends that you have is everything. Because you don't find that now. Honestly, you don't. You know, where I'm from, a lot of my friends are in New York and we part ways. So the only friend I really have is my husband. You know, my circle is very small. You know, I lost a son. I have one son in New York. But the best friend I have is God and my husband. And so I commend you guys for doing what you do and taking your friends along with you, because you don't find loyalty like that.
Yeah.
You just
don't. Can y'all tell her to treat her friend a little bit better?
Oh, we can't get involved in that.
No, I'm just speaking. So if you get to know me, that's just me. I love to see people smile. I love to see people smile. I really, that's just me. I've just always been that way.
Yeah.
You know, I know we're running out of time here, but I gotta say this. That part right there for Lawerence, I hope you can back me up on this, my brother. But when she stopped smiling, when she stopped smiling, when she stopped laughing at your jokes, you need to buckle down, man. Because my wife still laughs at me to this day, and she'll
laugh at this joker too.
Yeah, and we don't think that small thing is important, but it is, because I've been through it. When they stop laughing, I know I can be a funny guy sometimes. I ain't saying I'm like real funny, but I can make you smile or laugh. And when they stop laughing, especially when you know it's funny, I'm like, okay, all right, so I guess I'll go and pack up.
It's a wrap.
I'll go and pack and leave. Take my little suitcase with me. Hey, but with that being said, if you guys want to add, we try to keep this around an hour. So if you guys want to add anything else, you most definitely, the floor is open. But if not, we're gonna come to the end. It's been such a great conversation. But you guys have anything else you want to add?
I'll just leave with this, and Lawerence may have something, but this is our 3-point mantra in Lawerence and my relationship, is that we communicate openly. As he mentioned, communication is key to us. We forgive immediately, and we operate in a no judgment zone with each other. The same grace that we give others, because we found that over the years that sometimes we give more grace to people that are not close to us than we do to the person that we vowed our life with. So we established those 3 principles for each other to make sure that we always communicate, forgive immediately, and operate in a no judgment zone with each other. And that's what's keeping us where we are.
That's great.
I love it.
Absolutely. And that was that. You know, you hit. That's what I was going to say. Our 3 points, and I would just add to that is that, you know, you learn to laugh at your mistakes, because you're going to make them until the day you leave this earth. So don't take your mistakes too seriously, because you're going to make it. Give each other the grace to just make a mistake, you know, and not see it as a death wish to your relationship. It was just a moment. It was just a mistake, or it wasn't the way. It may have had a bigger impact than the intention was, and you learn to work through those type of moments.
That's great. That's great. Wonderful. Anything you want to add, sweetheart?
Nothing. I'm just honored to have spoken to you guys and learned so much from your relationship. God bless both of you, and continue growing, continue your union and coaching and everything that you're doing. I'm just so happy to know you guys.
This has been so much fun. Thank y'all for having us. It's been fun going down memory lane.
Yes.
And I have to say, it was great talking to you guys. I mean, to talk to a couple, you know, that have accomplished so much, you know, and to just learn about, as Mr. G said, his humble beginning. I remember the Bully magazine story. And to see you guys now and to have this open conversation with you guys, and just the smiles, man. I mean, it just makes what we do so much easier, you know, and we just thank you guys for joining us on the Talk Over podcast. And we just hope to have you guys back one day and to collaborate and
love to come back.
join this journey with us, man, because I just think over the next 5 years, I really see us in a place to where we can give back wholeheartedly. I mean, we're doing it now, but we got so many plans. So with that being said, we're going to end the podcast. And thank you from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you. And we hope to see you guys soon. Be speaking to you some more, Tawana.
Yes, we will.
Together. Okay?
All right.
Take care now.
All right. Good night.
Bye.